Before the metrics move, behaviour starts adjusting. The shifts usually begin earlier than the business wants to believe. Not in the report, in subtle restraint. A customer asks a little less of the experience. Expectations are replaced with micro debits. A team learns to diffuse the system instead of informing it. It rarely begins in the centre. It starts at the edge, then works its way inwards. By the time it reaches the middle, the business is no longer reading the signal, it's managing the damage. People protect effort early. Customers and teams adapt together when the system stops creating value cleanly. No formal conclusion is needed. Time is the friend of complexity. Weak architecture tends to fail at the edges before it is questioned in the centre. And at the time the centre is forced to respond, the business is no longer improving the system, it's containing the consequences. The first adjustment is usually small. Short emissions, delayed return, lighter basket, simpler choices. That's why they get missed. The system rarely gives itself away in one dramatic break. It reveals itself through repeated micro adjustments. But those adjustments only become useful when you stop reading the transaction and start reading the customer. A single move proves little. In repetition, the purpose starts to slow. And once that purpose is visible, slippage stops looking random. You begin to see what it's worth and who is carrying it. Workarounds are not random. They are rational responses to systems becoming more expensive to use, more expensive in time, in rework, in errors that keep draining the system's energy. If you map the nose properly, variance begins to show itself against expectations. But by the final node, the upstream cause is no longer part of the conversation. The workaround is the only thing left in view. That's where the customer sits. That's where the emotional cost gets paid, not upstream failures that made the moment necessarily. The small voices often end up carrying the variance created far above them. The workaround's not the problem. It's the visible trace of a system whose real cause has been left out of frame. The business feels different before it looks different. Behaviour shifts early, while totals can appear stable. Most people generalise until the signal is mapped well enough to carry the weight. Then the pattern becomes hard to ignore. Promotions often make this visible quickly. The response is there from the moment the doors open. Not just in sales, but in the shape of the response. You can see whether trust and value are meeting cleanly or just brushing past each other. When they meet cleanly, the pattern has force. Compensation leaves a shape. Attention is not enough to move preference. This is where behaviour starts to become readable. The customer compartmentalises spend through emotional anchoring. The offer is present, but not enough edge to change the pattern of choice. Spends fragment across time and channel. Returns stretch out. Completion weakens. These are not isolated outliers. They tend to cluster. Watch where effort is being protected. That is often where the system is already taxing the customer. Avoidance is often the first adversary of trust. Customers do not need the full explanation. They can distill price, convenience, and effort very quickly. They often know the tax they are paying, and they decide often faster than the business realises what fair value actually is. Most systems never map emotional regimes properly. They keep selling the offer long after credibility has started to weaken. That is when protection turns into avoidance. Stable metrics can hide active weakening. Sales may hold, while trust, mission quality, and future value is thinning. That is one of the most dangerous states in retail. The business still looks functional, volume still moves, but the quality of the win is changing. Weak systems often drift towards the middle, even though the strategy depends on avoiding it. More compensation is needed to hold the line. Less value is being created cleanly. The structure is already weakening, and the speed is often the first thing that goes. Repetition turns adjustment into evidence. One workaround is noise. Repeated compensation is structure becoming visible. A single delay means little. In repetition, it compounds. A single transaction proves nothing. 1,000 similar decisions begin to describe the system. Repeating movements in the same direction is different. It's quiet destruction through low agency. This is where the behaviour stops being anecdotal and starts to become reliable evidence. Value add is slipping, and willingness to pay is slipping with it. Read the compensation early. When you choose one repeated pattern the business has normalised, don't explain it away. Trace it back through the system until you find where effort, trust or value begin to weaken. That point matters more than the workaround that followed it, because one compensation becomes normal, the business stops improving the system and starts managing around it.